So by now you're probably at least aware of the GameStop short squeeze and kind of all the stuff that's going on in the stock market. But that isn't necessarily, directly related to cybersecurity, so maybe you haven't paid the most attention. Well, today I'm going to point out that perhaps this was all caused by an open source intelligence collection failure, and we're kind of going to talk about OSINT as it relates to this instance. Now, of course, OSINT is something we talk about mostly or a lot in cybersecurity. So, these are some important lessons for us to learn and to take back to our respective organizations. Hi everybody, welcome to StudioSec. Thank you for watching. Like if this is helpful, comment down below. If you're trading, don't do that. You don't have to do that. But like, comment, subscribe. I'm posting every week. So a huge part of cybersecurity is intelligence, and a massive part of intelligence collection is open source intelligence. Now, what is open source intelligence? Open source intelligence is a collection of intelligence from the public domain, right? It's stuff that's publicly available. You don't have to, do any kind of covert work to get that data. It's publicly available. It may even be behind, a paywall or something like that, but it is pushed out to the public. Anybody can retrieve that information. Now, it's important in cybersecurity to do, some level of OSINT due diligence because, the news is obviously going to be posting quite a lot of, valuable intelligence that you might want to know. For instance, we talk about cybersecurity news a little bit on this channel. That's clearly stuff you want to know about, like the SolarWinds attack. Some, open source intelligence. Hey, by the way, SolarWinds is breached. You should probably know. That is literally an example of open source intelligence, right? Well, it can also be anything from social media posts, data that's released via, some kind of regulatory commission or government agency, right? There's so many avenues that you can go in the, the OSINT track. So, that's kind of why in cybersecurity you want to make sure that you're doing some level of open source intelligence collection. Now, another important thing, and this is true in just about any other industry, right, is it's very important to learn from others' mistakes, right? We can all, I know for me it's much easier to learn from others' mistakes, but I sure like to make mistakes on my own too, right? But it hurts a lot less to learn from others' mistakes. So right now we're going to talk about, the GME, AMC short squeeze. We're going to talk about this whole situation, why it happened, but we're also going to talk about kind of the OSINT implications here, because believe it or not, there's actually a lot going on here from an open source intelligence perspective. Now, of course, it all starts from a Reddit user called Deep Effing Value. And of course, yeah, I'm going to censor myself and I'm not, going to post anything here from the Reddit channel. There's a link in the description, but, just FYI, not necessarily family friendly language on there. So, I'm not going to throw that up on the screen right now. But it all starts with a Reddit user called Deep Effing Value. I'm just going to abbreviate it, call it Deep Value because it rolls off the tongue a bit better, right? But Deep Value pointed out some amount of, back in 2019, that there was a potential for a GameStop short squeeze, right? And that meant that any amount of buying pressure applied to the stock would cause a squeeze. Now, I'm going to do some basic breaking down. Again, this is not a finance channel, this is a cybersecurity channel, but just so you understand, whenever someone is shorting a stock, they're placing a bet that stock will go down in value. So what they do is they borrow an amount of stock from a lender, and then they sell it off immediately at whatever price it's at, right? So let's say a stock is $10,000, right? So I borrow 100 stock from someone that owns it, sell it off immediately, I make that money, and then I wait until the value of the stock goes down. Then I buy that stock back, return the amount of stock that I borrowed, and then whatever that difference is my profit, all right? Does that make sense? So people believed clearly that GameStop was gonna go down in value, right? Because, we're not all going out, into public areas and buying games at GameStop, their Steam and stuff. And then COVID hit, right? That was kind of the enzyme to this problem, right? So, to a point, GameStop had been shorted. I mean, multiple, much, much higher than there were actual stock available to short. Now you're actually, whenever you buy the stock back, anytime you buy a stock, the price goes up, the value goes up. So all the people that had shorted the stock, had to rebuy the stock to return to the lender, causing the price to go up. Well, that continued because, again, it had been shorted more than there were actually shares available to it. And that is why GameStop shares in a week went from $20 a pop to, it hit 500 at one point, and it just kind of hovered around $350 a share. So for his analysis, Deep Value had managed to turn a pretty all right investment at $20 a share and made millions and millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars. And plenty of other people on the WallStreetBets, forum had made millions of dollars and, had made, just a ton of money off of this bet, right? It's essentially a bet, but it's using math. A lot of these people made so much money just kind of following this research that Deep Value posted and applying that pressure, right? And now, of course, they're trying to take that process and apply it to other stock. Like, AMC is kind of the next one that is believed to be, the next short squeeze, right? So let's break this down. What happened? Well, Deep Value performed open source intelligence. He performed open source intelligence, identified that these stocks could be, short squoze, I guess you could say, and they can make a huge profit, right? And now you have a ton of people making similar open source intelligence, assessments and identifying, other areas where this could happen, right? Well, as a result of this open source intelligence in a distributed area by a number of individuals, hedge funds lost anywhere between $30 to $80 billion. Yeah, $1 billion. That's a lot of money to lose in a week. Who can imagine having $1 billion? Now imagine losing all of that in like a minute, right? Pretty much at the rate that they were hemorrhaging money, right? That's crazy. So WallStreetBets, that's kind of what happens. They use open source intelligence. This stock skyrockets, and now we're kind of in a situation as of the time that we're recording, which is February 2nd, where, there's kind of a standoff, right? But now we're starting to see another disconnect where, you can see some organizations not using open source intelligence and kind of pushing a narrative without really doing any research. And then you have another group of people still kind of doing open source intelligence, and they're holding firm in their position, right? So on one end, you have, a lot of institutions on Wall Street that are basically trying to push a narrative that WallStreetBets, right, a forum, and this is an example, that WallStreetBets is trying to jump into silver, that silver is the next short squeeze. Well, if you do any amount of research into that story, you get on WallStreetBets, it's, it's Reddit. You do a scroll, you're gonna see people literally saying, don't jump into silver. You see the exact opposite, but that was such a dominant story, right? To start off this week, right? Is everybody saying, the next thing they're gonna jump into is silver. Well, any amount of open source intelligence and that is a lie. But if all you do is you just read a headline and that's the extent of open source intelligence collection that you're doing, you're probably going to be led astray, right? You have to do a little bit more digging, right? You have to be able to verify that the facts that are being pointed out in a news article are in fact correct. Well, the WallStreetBets crowd, they're holding firm. They still are doing, the same amount of open source intelligence collection that they were doing with GameStop. They're noticing short positions in stocks like AMC, and they're basically just kind of holding firm, waiting for a short squeeze. Whether or not that happens, I don't work in finance. I'm a nerd. I do cybersecurity stuff. This isn't, the finance stuff is out of, I'm learning this on the fly too, right? But that being said, it's still important to be able to see what's going on, see the kind of the open source intelligence battle that's going on here, and you're gonna see that the more informed crowd is going to win. Now, if we're kind of looking at the past, right? We're seeing that right now it really looks like the retail trader side, they have the ball in their court, right? Where they're doing some of this, they're doing their research on just kind of how the mechanics of the market have been set up. And they're trying to use that to slingshot themselves into bigger, investment positions, right? And you're seeing institutions that, kind of may not be performing as much intelligence, Or maybe they might be doing that intelligence, but they're not respecting the intelligence enough to actually follow through with that. Well, of course, whenever you're not respecting your intelligence, really bad things could happen. I want to go back to, a history example. There was intelligence that, Pearl Harbor was going to happen, right? It's not like the US was completely clueless about, the Japanese fleet coming towards them, but they didn't think that it would be plausible for the Japanese to attack the Navy at Pearl Harbor. So they did not respect the intelligence they had collected. So by the time that it actually happened, tragedy ensued, and that intelligence that they had gathered, pretty much went to waste. Imagine all the lives that could have been saved if, some more defensive structure had been put together, and the intelligence that they collected, turned a surprise attack into a rout, right? That's completely different. Now, I say all of this to say that OSINT is incredibly important in security, right? Especially if you're doing threat hunting, that, you cannot sleep on open source intelligence. And it's going to be a bit more difficult in cybersecurity than in, say, markets. Now, in the financial markets, they're supposed to be publicly available by law, like it's publicly available that you can find short positions and stuff like that. That data is available to you so you can make an informed trading decision. Now, in cybersecurity, you're pretty much going up against the children of the KGB, right? You're going up against, anybody from a cyber criminal that's just trying to steal a couple bucks to sophisticated intelligence agencies that are trying to do some, national damage, right? So it's up to you to make sure that you are leveraging everything available to you to get as clear a picture of your environment as you possibly can. And that includes social media. And that also includes random users that are posting, pretty consistent data that looks pretty legit and is following a trend of, authentic data collection, right? Although they may not have a lot of users or a lot of followers at the time, it really doesn't matter. If what they're posting appears to be true, that's probably a lead you should look into, right? Because that can be the difference, if you're in finance from, a big success, you're closing your short positions to an $80 billion failure. Or if you're in cybersecurity, that can be, anything from, succeeding in defending against any kind of cyber attack, right? And which is just about every day that you're doing that, right? To a catastrophic failure like SolarWinds, where not just you but everybody downstream is getting caught, right, or is getting attacked. These are things that it really can be that minute. No pressure. It takes teams, right? And that's why this is such a collaborative industry, because it takes more than just one pair of eyes on this to be able to do that. And you'll find if you're new and you're getting into this industry, that a lot of people are very okay, with sharing things that they're noticing online, some of the chatter they're seeing, and kind of, helping each other out with, hey, this is something I'm seeing. Is this legit? Could this actually be a thing that's going on? Now, is your open source intelligence going to be 100% reliable? Probably not. Because sometimes people just post stuff to post stuff, right? Memes are not intelligence, right? Memes are the antithesis of intelligence. They're funny, but you're not getting any smarter for it, right? But you will occasionally come across somebody that appears to kind of know what they're talking about, and that'll be something valuable. So it's a balance. You need to make sure that you're feeding your OSINT collection enough to get some information, but you're not putting all your eggs in the OSINT basket, because that's not going to necessarily get you everything. There's all kinds of other information or other data sources that you'll probably be pulling from. So hey, if you get it right, you knock it out of the ballpark, you could be a millionaire overnight, right? If you get the OSINT thing correct, you could you can make it big. Or if you're in cybersecurity, and you're not necessarily using this to make money, you could save, millions of people from having their livelihoods overturned with, personal identity theft or anything like that. So, that ultimately is what this is all about, is making sure that we are protecting other people. So with that, if this video was helpful or interesting to you, comment down below. What are you looking at whenever it comes to open source intelligence? What are some feeds that you found to be incredibly helpful for you? And subscribe for more content I'm posting every week. Thank you.